Hey everybody, here in the USA, it's the 4th of July. Let's do the CSS Battle. Oh, look at that. Isn't that just delightful? That's, I mean, it's kind of an input, right? I mean, I guess we don't get the cursor though, right? Like we don't quite get the cursor. But I mean, that input certainly has the look of an input. We would get the background for free if we did it with the input. Let's go ahead and we'll do the input. It's begging to be the input, so we will make it the input, which is silly. Okay. Okay. And I wanted okay, there we go. Okay, so we have an input. Don't set a background. Border 10 pixels solid. With this dark color, and border radius of 20 pixels or something, some small amount, and the margins I'll set 0 for all the margins to start with. That sure looks like the right diff. Yeah, I think it looks like the right diff. Okay, so let's push this down. Top margin, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 102, okay. And let's push it over. 10, 12. So I've got a few choices. If I do a display block, do I get 100%? I don't. If I do width 100%, I believe I get what I want there. I guess in theory, I could just do a number, 300, and that's going to be less than 100%. Or I could do something like 99%, and then do the rest of it with margins, like, but that's not really better. Let's do 300. And if I do that, then I don't need these middle. Yeah, I just need, I don't need the middle up. So I'm setting margins at the top and the starting side, right, the left-hand side. So these can be whatever and not have much of an impact. Like I can add numbers there, and they're not going to do anything. So I just need the 2 numbers. So that's margins on the input are 102 on the top and bottom, and then 12 on the sides. Okay. And this height, let's adjust that, 80. Yeah, it looks like it's 80. And it looks like I guessed the border width correctly. And no, I have not forgotten about this guy here. If I do an eye there, am I going to get what I want? Maybe that's the way I want to do that. I know I'm doing things out of order there. Sorry about that. I don't know if that's going to work. All right, so we need to set a width though. Let's widthify. 330, 40, 50, 60, 360. Great. So because we're using an input, we get the background color for free. We add some characters on the input. Here's where it gets interesting. So do I want to really try to use that as the thing? What if I do a pipe character? Kind of a mess. Like I don't, it's sort of a very silly thing, and I don't think it's worth it. But know that we could put you know, we can put words in here and have them show up. But I just don't think that we've got, you know, a character that's going to fill this in quite the right way. I don't think. Well, let's try it. You know, see, the fact the proportions of that are just not right. Like, I could set a font family, system UI, and that's a little different. And then if I do an L lowercase l, that's a little different. And then I can do a pipe character. That's a little bit different. I could do 2 I's and then change the letter spacing. Minus 10 pixels. So, sure. Of course, I gotta set the color. And if I add a space character, that's kind of fun. Yeah, you know, so you can kind of see that working. 68, 67, 68. Like, it's just the characters are just not a good usage of this. So we're not going to do it. I know that it is super fun, but we keep adding new things. Font size and font family and color and all these things that we just don't want to do. So we do need center background. And to me, I like for this iconic gradient. And of course I do. 75% white. And it's at 20 pixels, 70 pixels tall, something like that. Actually, no, it's really small, isn't it? It's like 10 pixels. And then 60, 40, and then we move it 10 pixels over, or 15 pixels over, or 14. There we go. I think it is 10 pixels wide. And then we move it down 10 pixels, or 7, or 6, or 5, 6, 7, 8. And then down 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it, I think. Super fun to do an input. This is the first time I have ever done an input, and that definitely solves the problem. Super fun. Do we have everything we need here? If I change the height, you know, I could do... So if I don't set the height in that way, if I do line height, can I get it? 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 5. So that's another way to do it. Is that better than what I had before? No, not really, but it's a proof that you can do it that way. What else could I do that would alter that height? Yeah, height of 80 is just the cleanest way to do that. What are our other choices? I guess, so here's one of the other aspects of this. If I do a value, hello, well, the font size is too small. Font size 50, right? If I set a color, this color, then I don't need this. Yeah, there's, you know, I'm sort of exploring what's going on there, and sort of on the silly side. I don't need the value. So margin, border radius must be in pixels, yes. Width, height, margins, and then this background that constitutes this little character here. We minify and we unit replace, and we're all done. Kudos to the CSS Battle team, and that's a pretty good score. Is there another form element that's got a shorter name that we could have used? I don't think so. Of course, it's sort of implicit that type would be equal to text, but you know, we don't need to type that. We could do things like required. Like there's all kinds of different attributes that you could add to a form element to use it. Yeah, and I think there was a question just came in for yesterday's or day before's video, and with multiple elements, some of the elements were on top of each element. So each subsequent element in a in the source order, right? So if I do another input, margin top minus 100, right? So each one is on top of the each next one is on top of the prior ones, and you're gonna have a hard time moving each one of those around unless you do a z-index, and then sometimes that z-index, if you do that, you're going to need to also set the position so that they are all in the same context, I guess is the right way to put it. I'm probably saying a lot of this wrong, but if you go to MDN and look at the rules for applying z-index, right, which looks like this, z-index. Basically, if you're having to do z-index, that's probably a code smell. Like you should avoid using z-index for most purposes. Like it's just not going to be useful to you. You've gotten yourself, you're hacking your way out of something. And so, I mean, I don't think that I've ever used z-index for a CSS battle. You want to use the web as it is. The web's grain is what. There's a great talk called The Web's Grain, whose speaker I cannot remember right now, but The Web's Grain is a terrific talk about what is the web actually made of, and it's about that source. That source order is part of that, and that stacking that each subsequent element does if you set their margins in weird different ways so that they are occupy the same space. Each later ones will be on top, so you're stacking. I've under-explained it and then over-explained it too. So yeah, check out MDN. And happy Independence Day for those of you who are celebrated it already or are celebrating it or don't celebrate it because you're not an American. Why would it mean anything to you? It means something to me. My hope is for my country to improve. That's all I'll say about that today. We're just here for the CSS and HTML today, and have a great day. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Go make a webpage. Bye.